I'm Alex 35, male, and they laughed when they took everything from my company, my future, my fiancée, but they weren't laughing when I meticulously took it all back. It sounds like a Hollywood script, but it was my life, a harsh reality born from the deepest betrayal. For years, Quantum Leap Innovations was my universe, a startup I poured my soul into alongside Marcus's, my best friend since college, and Chloe, the woman I loved and was about to marry. We built it from nothing, fueled by ramen noodles and boundless ambition, transforming a quirky idea into a successful tech company on the cusp of a multi-million-dollar acquisition. But what I didn't see, what I couldn't bear to imagine, was the viper's nest festering right beneath my nose. Marcus, my co-founder, and was always the practical one, the steady hand that balanced my wild ideas, or so I thought. Looking back, there were subtle cracks. He was always a little too eager to take credit, a little too quick to dismiss my concerns as overthinking. I remember one crucial investor meeting where I presented our new algorithm. Marcus, usually reserved, interrupted me to elaborate on a technical point, making it sound like his insight, not mine. I just brushed it off as him being enthusiastic, proud of our collective work. Then there was Chloe, my brilliant and beautiful fiancée, our head of marketing. Our relationship was the bedrock of my personal life, or so I believed. She handled all the legal and financial paperwork for the company, reassuring me that it was easier if she managed the administrative load. I trusted her implicitly. My first real uneasy feeling came during a late-night work session. I found Chloe and Marcus alone in the office, huddled over a spreadsheet, their heads closed, whispering. When I walked in, they jumped apart. Looking startled, Chloe quickly said, "Just reviewing some projections for tomorrow's meeting." Alex, Marcus avoided my gaze. I dismissed it as paranoia, the stress of the impending acquisition. After all, they were my family, my closest allies. A third incident, even more unsettling, occurred a few months before the betrayal. Chloe insisted we sign some updated internal company agreements. Standard procedure, she said, to streamline processes before the acquisition. I barely glanced at them, trusting her completely. Marcus was there, urging me to just sign it. "Alex, let's get this done." I signed without reading the fine print, focused on the bigger picture, the exciting future just within our grasp. I now know those standard agreements were the legal noose they were meticulously crafting around my neck. The blueprint for my downfall? My blind faith, it turned out, was their greatest weapon. The acquisition talks for Quantum Leap Innovations were reaching a fever pitch. We were on the verge of signing a deal that would make us all rich beyond our wildest dreams. The air was thick with excitement, long hours, and the scent of impending success. I was so consumed by the technical aspects, by ensuring our product was perfect for the new parent company, that I delegated most of the legal and financial negotiations to Marcus and Chloe. They were, after all, my most trusted partners. "You focus on the code, Alex," Marcus would say with a reassuring pat on the back. "Chloe and I will handle the suits." Chloe, meanwhile, grew increasingly distant, cloaking her absence under the guise of important meetings or late-night calls with the legal team. Our engagement felt like a side note, a detail to be picked up after the big deal. When I'd try to plan wedding details, she'd demur, saying, "Let's get this acquisition done first, darling. Then we can truly celebrate everything." Her phone became a constant companion, face down on tables, screen alerts silenced. I once saw a cryptic text notification flash across her screen from Marcus. "Almost there, just a few more days." I brushed it off, thinking it was about some intricate deal point. Marcus, too, changed. He became more secretive, spending hours in closed-door meetings with Chloe, emerging with tight, almost triumphant smiles that didn't quite reach his eyes. He started making subtle, almost imperceptible changes to my schedule, diverting my attention from certain financial reports or investor calls, always with a plausible explanation. "You're too valuable in the lab, Alex," he'd insist. "Let us handle the paperwork." I was so caught up in the final sprint, so exhausted by the relentless pace, that I willingly surrendered control, convinced it was for the good of the company. My focus was squarely on the technology, the innovative core of Quantum Leap. Little did I know, they were meticulously gutting it from the inside, leaving me with an empty shell. The laughter was already brewing, a silent, chilling prelude to the public spectacle they had planned. The day of the final acquisition signing was supposed to be the culmination of years of tireless work, a celebration of our shared dream. We gathered in a lavish boardroom, bathed in the soft glow of a dozen monitors, surrounded by lawyers and executives. Marcus and Chloe sat opposite me, their faces unreadable, a strange tension in the air I couldn't quite place. I felt a surge of pride, a quiet triumph, as the head of the acquiring company, Mr. Harrison, began to speak. "Gentlemen, and Miss Chloe," he began, a polite smile on his face. "We are thrilled to finalize the acquisition of Quantum Leap Innovations. Your technology, under Alex's brilliant leadership, is truly revolutionary." He gestured towards me, and I felt a warmth spread through me. This was it. But then, Marcus cleared his throat, a sharp, almost theatrical sound. "Actually, Mr. Harrison, he interjected, his voice unnervingly calm. There's been a slight change in the leadership structure. A recent board decision, based on revised shareholding agreements. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about, Marcus? I demanded, my voice tight. Chloe avoided my gaze, her jaw set. Mr. Harrison looked confused. Revised agreements. We were under the impression Mr. Vance holds the majority stake in leadership. He did, Chloe interjected, her voice devoid of emotion. But under the terms of the updated partnership agreement Alex signed a few months ago, and certain performance clauses, his shares have been redistributed. Marcus is now the majority shareholder and CEO. She spoke as if reading from a script, her words like daggers. Not my mind reeled. The standard agreements she'd insisted I sign, the whispers, the late-night meetings. It all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. This is impossible, I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. This is a setup. This is fraud. Marcus finally looked at me, a cold, predatory gleam in his eyes. No, Alex, this is business. And you signed the papers. You simply weren't paying attention. Then came the laughter. Not a polite chuckle, but a derisive, triumphant cackle from Marcus, joined by a quieter, equally chilling giggle from Chloe. They looked at each other, a conspiratorial glint in their eyes, before turning their mocking gaze back to me. A security guard, prearranged, stepped forward and gently but firmly took my arm. Mr. Vance, I'm afraid you need to leave the premises. I was being escorted out of my own company, a company I built from nothing, while the two people I loved and trusted most stood by, smirking. The laughter followed me, echoing in the opulent halls, piercing my soul. It was the sound of my world, shattering, of every dream turning to ash. I was left with nothing but the clothes on my back and the indelible memory of their cruel, victorious laughter. But in that moment of utter devastation, a seed of ice-cold resolve took root. They had laughed. They wouldn't be laughing for long. The immediate aftermath was a blur of raw, unfiltered agony. The laughter of Marcus and Chloe, their faces contorted in triumphant mockery, replayed in my mind on an endless loop, a soundtrack to my humiliation. I was stripped bare, not just of my company, but of my identity, my future, and my belief in human decency. My apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. Every object, every piece of furniture, reminded me of Chloe, of Marcus, of a life that was now a cruel mirage. Spent days in a haze, barely eating, barely sleeping. The news of my ousting from Quantum Leap Innovations spread like wildfire through the tech community. The official narrative painted me as a disgruntled founder, burnt out, or incapable of handling the pressures of a major acquisition. Marcus and Chloe, meanwhile, were hailed as the new, dynamic leadership, steering the company into a prosperous future. The injustice burned hotter than any fever. My phone was silent, then flooded with calls and messages from confused friends and worried family. I couldn't bring myself to answer most of them. How do you explain that your best friend and your fiancée conspired to steal everything you built? My parents, bless their hearts, were devastated. They offered support, urging me to come home, to grieve. But grief felt too passive. What I felt was a cold, simmering rage, a methodical determination that hardened with each passing moment. I replayed every interaction, every suspicious glance, every standard agreement Chloe had urged me to sign. The pieces of their intricate deception clicked into place, forming a horrifying mosaic of calculated betrayal. They hadn't just taken my company, they had painstakingly planned it, savoring the moment of my public downfall. The initial shock slowly morphed into a quiet, unwavering resolve. I knew I couldn't fight them in a public spectacle right away. They had the legal leverage, the public narrative, and the financial resources. But I also knew their weaknesses. Marcus's arrogance, Chloe's greed, and the underlying ethical shortcuts they must have taken to achieve their rapid ascent. I began to plot, not out of hot-headed anger, but with the cold, precise logic of a strategist. I started by isolating myself from the noise, turning off my phone, and disconnecting from social media. I needed to think, to plan, to forge a new path from the ashes of my old life. They had laughed, they wouldn't be laughing when I took it all back, and I would take it all back. Piece by agonizing piece. My path to reclaiming what was mine began not with a bang, but with a whisper. I started from absolute zero, financially ruined, my reputation tarnished. But they hadn't taken my intellect, my drive, or my deep understanding of the tech world. My first move was to quietly liquidate what few personal assets I had left, an old classic car, some rare tech memorabilia, to give myself a small buffer. I rented a tiny nondescript office in a forgotten corner of the city, a place where I could work in absolute secrecy. It felt like starting over, but this time, the driving force wasn't ambition, but a burning desire for justice. My first target was Marcus. I knew he was ambitious, always cutting corners. I began digging into his past projects, his financial dealings, anything that might reveal a weakness. I remembered hushed conversations about a failed venture before Quantum Leap, a project that vanished mysteriously. Using my old developer network, discreetly and without revealing my identity, I started pulling threads. It was slow, painstaking work, like sifting through sand 4 grains of gold. The breakthrough came when I found an anonymous forum post, years old, hinting at a tech executive who had fudged numbers to secure early investment in a previous startup. The details were vague, but something about the language resonated with Marcus's known patterns. I cross-referenced the dates, the technologies, and the geographic locations. It led me to an obscure online archive of a defunct tech blog. There, I found a cached article detailing a lawsuit against Marcus's previous company for misleading investors. The case was dismissed, seemingly, but the comments section contained a key detail: a former junior analyst, a quiet woman named Anya, who had openly expressed her discomfort with the accounting practices. It took weeks, but I found Anya. She was initially terrified to speak, clearly traumatized by her past experience. But after several careful, empathetic emails, reassuring her of anonymity, and explaining my own recent ordeal, she finally agreed to meet. Anya revealed that Marcus had a history of creating shell companies and inflating user numbers to secure funding, then liquidating quickly before anyone caught on. She had documented evidence, kept in a personal cloud drive, internal spreadsheets, manipulated metrics, and even emails from Marcus explicitly detailing the fraudulent scheme. It was a goldmine. Next, Chloe. Her betrayal was more personal, more stinging, but I also knew her weakness: an insatiable desire for recognition and a tendency to overshare when feeling superior. I started tracking her public appearances, her social media posts, looking for any slip-ups. I even reactivated a burner social media account to follow her carefully curated online life. I noticed an unusual pattern. She was frequently posting photos from exclusive, private events related to a niche industry Marcus had no interest in. It was odd. My suspicion, cold and precise, began to form. This wasn't just about Marcus's past. It was about their present and the tangled web of their ongoing deception. The unveiling had begun. Armed with Anya's damning evidence against Marcus and a growing suspicion about Chloe, I moved into the next phase of my plan. My new company, built in absolute secrecy, was my Trojan horse. I called it Phoenix Rising Tech, a defiant nod to my own rebirth from the ashes. It was a leaner, more agile operation, focused on a niche market that Quantum Leap had overlooked, using my original algorithms but refined and enhanced. I poached a few loyal, disillusioned engineers from Quantum Leap who had secretly reached out to me. Disgusted by Marcus and Chloe's hostile takeover, they joined me in secret, fueled by a shared sense of injustice. I strategically leaked anonymous tips to a few investigative tech journalists about Marcus's past fraudulent activities, providing just enough breadcrumbs to pique their interest. The stories began to surface, vague at first, then more specific. Marcus, arrogant and dismissive, publicly scoffed at them, calling them baseless smears from disgruntled former employees. But the seeds of doubt were sown. The final piece of the puzzle came from Chloe's peculiar social media posts. The niche events she attended seemed to coincide with major investment rounds for a rival startup, Nexus Dynamics. It was a long shot, but I connected the dots. Chloe, driven by insatiable ambition and a desire for more power than even Marcus could provide, had been covertly consulting for Nexus Dynamics, feeding them proprietary marketing strategies and insights stolen directly from Quantum Leap's confidential files. She was playing both sides. And Julian, the CEO of Nexus Dynamics, was her latest mark. I confirmed this through a carefully placed anonymous inquiry to a former intern of Chloe's who had expressed discomfort about some unusual data transfers he'd been asked to facilitate. The time for the grand unveiling arrived. Quantum Leap Innovations was hosting a massive industry gala to celebrate their new acquisition and announce their latest product, a pivotal moment for their public image. I, along with my small dedicated team from Phoenix Rising Tech, secured invitations through a sympathetic contact. The atmosphere was electric. Marcus and Chloe basking in the spotlight, their faces radiating self-satisfaction as Marcus stepped onto the stage to deliver his triumphant speech. I activated a series of screens behind him, meant to display Quantum Leap's dazzling new product, suddenly switched to a live feed. It displayed not the product, but a split screen. On one side, a montage of Anya's irrefutable evidence, internal emails from Marcus detailing his past fraud, manipulated financial statements. On the other side, screenshots of Chloe's private communications with Julian, detailing her intellectual property theft from Quantum Leap, complete with timestamps and confidential attachments. The crowd gasped. The triumphant smile on Marcus's face vanished, replaced by horror. Chloe, seeing her face and messages exposed, let out a choked cry. Their laughter, the cruel sound that had haunted my nightmares, was replaced by gasps, whispers, and then a stunned, horrified silence. Security rushed forward, but it was too late. The truth was out. Marcus's past caught up to him, leading to immediate SEC investigations and lawsuits from his past victims. Chloe's betrayal was undeniable. resulting in her immediate termination and legal action for intellectual property theft by Quantum Leap's new parent company. They fell from grace with a deafening crash, their reputations shattered, their careers ruined, their laughter extinguished. The fallout from the gala was swift and merciless. Marcus and Chloe became pariahs in the tech world, their names synonymous with fraud and betrayal. The second investigation into Marcus's past dealings escalated, leading to criminal charges. Chloe faced civil lawsuits from both Quantum Leap's new parent company and Nexus Dynamics, effectively ending her career and leaving her with crippling legal debt. Their lavish lifestyle crumbled, their public image in ruins. The irony was exquisite. The empire they had stolen from me now became the very instrument of their destruction. The laughter was truly gone, replaced by the chilling silence of their downfall. For me, the immediate aftermath was a whirlwind of interviews and public appearances. The story of my betrayal and strategic comeback resonated deeply, transforming me from a disgruntled founder into a symbol of resilience and integrity. Phoenix Rising Tech, no longer a secret, surged in popularity. Investors, impressed by our innovative product and my unwavering resolve, poured money into the company. We secured major contracts attracting top talent who were drawn to our ethical approach and compelling story. I wasn't just building a company, I was building a new legacy, one founded on trust and genuine innovation. My personal life began to heal too. The raw wounds of betrayal slowly scarred over, no longer dictating my every thought. I reconnected with old friends, strengthening bonds that had frayed during my isolation. I even reconnected with Anya, the former analyst who had provided crucial evidence. Our shared experience forged a unique connection, a quiet understanding of what it meant to stand up for what was right. We started spending more time together, talking, laughing, slowly building a foundation of trust and respect. It was a new kind of relationship, one built on authenticity rather than illusions. Looking back, the pain of losing everything was immense, but it was also the catalyst. It forced me to strip away all assumptions, to confront my own naivety, and to discover a strength and cunning I never knew I possessed. They had stolen my company, my fiancée, my future, and for a moment, they had laughed. But they hadn't stolen my spirit, my intellect, or my capacity to rebuild. I had taken it all back, not just the material wealth, but my dignity, my self-respect, and my belief in a future where true innovation and integrity would always prevail. To anyone out there who has been betrayed, who has felt the sting of humiliation and the crushing weight of loss, remember this: your story isn't over. They may laugh when they think they've won, but true victory belongs to those who rise from the ashes, who rebuild with a quiet determination, and who, ultimately, take it all back. The journey is hard, but the satisfaction of reclaiming your life, your purpose, and your dignity is immeasurable. Stay strong, stay focused, and remember, their laughter will eventually fade. After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories. We are all human. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon.